said, you know, sometimes we get so anxious when things don't move as fast as we expect. We send out applications, go to interviews, update our resumes again and again, said. And when nothing happens, frustration begins to rise. We start asking, God, where are you? He said, don't you see I need this job? But let me tell you something from my heart. God's timing is not our timing. His ways are higher. His thoughts are deeper. And His clock does not tick according to our schedule. What we call delay, God calls preparation, said. There are seasons in life when heaven seems silent. You pray, but it feels like your prayers bounce off the ceiling. You watch others get promoted, He said. Start businesses and move forward while you're stuck in the waiting room of life. But this is what I've learned: when God hides you, He's not rejecting you, He's protecting you. When He holds you back, it's not punishment, it's positioning, He said. God knows that if you step into something too early, even if it looks good, it might crush you instead of bless you. So He waits until your character, your faith, said, and your heart are ready for the weight of the next season. Think of a seed. When it's buried in the soil, it looks dead, forgotten, and unseen, He said. But underground, something powerful is happening. Roots are forming, strength is building, and in time, that seed will break through the ground, He said. The delay between planting and blooming is not wasted. It's sacred. That's what God is doing in you right now. You may feel buried, said, but you're actually being planted. God is preparing your roots so that when you finally arise, no wind or storm can uproot you, said. I remember a time in my own life when I prayed desperately for an opportunity. I thought that particular door was the one that would change everything. I worked, said, prepared and believed, but that door never opened. I was disappointed, even angry at God. But months later, when I looked back, He said, I saw how He had closed that door to lead me towards something far greater. Something I never would have pursued if that first opportunity had come through, said. What I thought was God ignoring me was actually God guiding me. His no was not rejection, it was redirection. You see, said, we live in a culture that glorifies speed. We want fast answers, fast success, fast results. But God is not interested in speed. He's interested in strength, said. He's not in a hurry to get you into a position. He's working to get His purpose into you. The process is what shapes you, said. The waiting season is what builds trust, patience, and endurance. The kind of qualities that last long after a job title fades, He said. Maybe right now you're wondering why your phone isn't ringing, why the emails aren't coming, why you keep hearing silence after every interview. Friend, don't mistake silence for absence. God is working behind the scenes in ways you can't yet see. He might be moving people, rearranging circumstances, said, or preparing the very opportunity that will bless not only you but others through you. He is never late. When the appointed time comes, the door will open, said, and you'll realize it wasn't luck. It was divine timing. So instead of asking, God, when? Start asking, God, what are you teaching me in this moment? Let the waiting transform you instead of torment you. Stay faithful in the small things. Keep praying, keep growing, said. Keep trusting. The delay is not a denial. The waiting room is not a waste of time. It's the classroom of God's preparation. And when He finally says, no, everything will fall into place perfectly, powerfully, and right on time, because God's timing is never wrong. Sometimes in life, He said, it feels like every door you knock on stays shut. You work hard, you pray faithfully, you try to do everything right, and yet the results don't seem to come. You start to wonder, maybe I'm just not good enough. Maybe God forgot about me. But let me tell you something. You are not being passed over, said. You are being prepared. What you see as rejection is often just redirection from a loving Father who knows exactly what's best for you, said. When you face disappointment, It's easy to interpret it as failure. But God doesn't measure success the way we do. To him, he said, a closed door is just as much a blessing as an open one. You may have been praying for a particular job or opportunity, thinking, if only I could have that, said, my life would finally make sense. Yet God, in his wisdom, sometimes says, no, said, not that one. I have something greater for you. He's not trying to punish you. He's shaping you, molding you, said, and preparing you for something beyond your current understanding. Think about this: before God promotes, he always prepares. Before he gives you the position, said, he builds your foundation. Just like a potter shaping clay, he presses molds, he said, and refines us so that we can carry the weight of the blessings he intends to pour out. If the clay resists the potter's hand, it may crack under pressure, he said. But when we surrender, when we let God shape us even through rejection, we become vessels fit for his use, said. There were moments in my life when I felt completely invisible. I saw others moving ahead while I was stuck, asking, God, said, why not me? But every season of rejection taught me something. It taught me humility, patience, and trust. It stripped away my pride and my need for control, he said. And I realized later, had God given me what I wanted too early, it would have destroyed me. My heart wasn't ready, my character wasn't strong enough, said, and my faith was still shallow. God wasn't saying no to hurt me. He was saying, wait, to grow me. Maybe right now, said, you're facing that same kind of season. The phone calls stop coming, the emails stay unanswered, and the opportunities seem to dry up. You might feel forgotten, said, but you are not forgotten by God. You are hidden. And there's a big difference. Hiddenness is not abandonment, it's protection. When God hides you, said, he's covering you while he strengthens you. He's allowing you to develop in private so that when he reveals you, said, you'll be ready to stand in public without falling. You see, many people want the spotlight, but they don't want the shaping. They want the platform, said, but not the preparation. But without preparation, blessing can become a burden. That's why God allows rejection. To refine your motives, said, to deepen your faith and to align your heart with his purpose. Every no you face is building something in you that success never could, said. Every delay is forming spiritual muscle, resilience, and wisdom that will sustain you when the real assignment arrives, said. There's a story told of an archer pulling back an arrow. The farther back the arrow is pulled, the greater the force when it's released. The tension, said, the backward motion, the waiting, all of it is necessary to give the arrow power and direction. That's what God is doing in your life, said. You may feel like you're being pulled backward, but he's preparing to launch you farther than you ever imagined. So, don't despise the preparation, said. Don't lose faith in the waiting, said. The rejection you're facing right now is not a sign that you're unworthy. It's proof that you're chosen for something higher, said. The doors that didn't open are not a curse. They're God's way of saying, I have something better prepared for you. Hold your head high, he said. Keep your heart soft. Keep trusting his process, even when you don't understand it, said. Because the same God who allowed the rejection will one day cause it all to make sense. You are not being passed over. You are being prepared, said. One of the biggest struggles people face when they lose a job or can't find one is the feeling of losing their identity, said. We live in a world that constantly measures worth by what we do, by titles, salaries, and achievements. When someone asks, said, what do you do? We instinctively answer with our job title as if that's who we are. But when that job is taken away, when the title disappears, said, suddenly we begin to question our value. Oh, am I now? Do I still matter? And that's where God gently reminds us, your identity is not in what you do, said. It's in who you are in him. You are not defined by a company's payroll, by a promotion, or by a rejection letter. You are defined by the one who created you, he said, the one who calls you his child. Before you ever had a rare same, before you ever held a position, God already knew your name and placed purpose inside of you. Said, that purpose doesn't disappear just because your job does. Your calling is not dependent on human approval. It's anchored in divine identity. Said, when Jesus walked on earth, he didn't carry a title that impressed people. He was a carpenter's son, a simple man in the eyes of the world. He said, yet through that humility, the greatest power was revealed. His worth didn't come from recognition or position. It came from relationship with the Father. That same truth applies to you. God doesn't see you as unemployed or between jobs. He sees you as his beloved son, his beloved daughter. He said, chosen and precious in his sight. Too often, we chase identity through performance. We think, if I just get that position, then I'll be respected. Said, if I make that income, then I'll be secure. If I achieve that goal, then I'll finally be enough. But those things are temporary. Jobs come and go, said, titles change, and companies rise and fall. If your identity is built on those things, it will shake every time life changes, said. But when your identity is built on who you are in Christ, deeply loved, fully accepted, unshakably secure, no circumstance can take that away, he said. There's a freedom that comes when you stop trying to prove your worth and start resting in God's love. When you understand that you are already enough, said, not because of what you've achieved, but because of who you belong to, your confidence becomes unbreakable, he said. You no longer walk into interviews with fear or desperation. You walk in with peace, knowing that you are not defined by the outcome, said. Whether they say yes or no doesn't change who you are. You are still chosen. You are still valuable. You are still part of God's plan. Maybe right now, said, you're in a season where your career feels uncertain and it's shaking your sense of identity. I want you to take a deep breath and remember this, said. Your life has meaning beyond a paycheck. Your purpose is not tied to a position. God has placed gifts in you that no job title can contain. You have influence, he said, even without a business card. You have purpose, even without a platform. You have value, even when the world doesn't see it, he said. And when you begin to live from that truth, something powerful happens. You stop striving and start shining, said. You no longer chase after approval. You walk in assurance. The same peace that Jesus carried in the storm begins to fill your heart. And suddenly, said, you realize that even in the waiting, you are still walking in purpose. Every moment becomes meaningful because you know who you are and whose you are, said. So don't let your circumstances tell you your worth. Don't let a job title define your identity. You are more than a rare same, more than your achievements, said. More than your past mistakes. You are God's masterpiece, created with divine intention, loved beyond measure, and called for something eternal, said. Your identity is not in what you do, it's in who you are in Him. So many people spend their lives chasing after a paycheck, he said, believing that if they can just land that perfect job, everything will finally fall into place, said. But let me tell you something. God's plan for your life is not centered around a paycheck, it's centered around purpose. A job can sustain you, said, but purpose fulfills you. And until you understand that difference, you'll always feel like something is missing, he said. No matter how much you earn or how impressive your position looks on paper, there's nothing wrong with wanting stability or even success. We all need to work, said, to provide, to build. But when your heart becomes more focused on the job than on the purpose behind it, you start living for survival instead of significance. He said, you begin to wake up each day chasing what you think you need, while the deeper call God placed within you remains untouched, said. God didn't create you just to make a living. He created you to make a difference, said. Some of you might be wondering why every job you try seems to leave you unfulfilled. You keep moving from one opportunity to another, said. But that sense of satisfaction never seems to stick. That's because you're trying to fill a spiritual calling with worldly success, said. You're searching for meaning in something that was never meant to define your purpose. The truth is, even if you had the perfect job, said, it would never give you what only God can. Only when you align your work with His purpose will your heart find peace, said. God's plan for you is always bigger than your career. It might include your career, but it's never limited to it, said. Maybe He's calling you to influence others right where you are, in your home, in your community, through your compassion and faith, said. Maybe your current season isn't about finding the next big opportunity, but about discovering how to use your gifts to serve others. Sometimes, he said, God will allow a door to close, not to deprive you, but to redirect you toward your real assignment, he said. You might be called to something unconventional, to start something new, to serve in ministry, to build a small business, he said, or to simply pour love into the people around you. And the world might look at that and say, that's not success. But heaven measures success differently, said. In God's eyes, success is obedience. It's doing what He's called you to do, even if it doesn't make sense to others, said. I've seen people walk away from well-paying positions because they felt God tugging their hearts in a new direction. Toward missions, mentoring, said, or creative work that blessed others. And while the world saw a step down, God saw a step forward. Because every time you choose purpose over comfort, said, every time you trust His plan over your own, you move closer to the life you were created for. Maybe you've been praying for a job, but God is saying, said, I'm trying to give you a vision. Maybe you've been asking for income, but He wants to give you influence, he said. He's not just thinking about how to meet your needs today. He's thinking about how to fulfill your destiny tomorrow, said. That's why sometimes His plan feels uncomfortable, because He's not building a career for you. He's building character within you, said. So don't reduce your calling to a paycheck. Don't assume that your worth is measured by what's in your bank account. When you wake up each day and say, Lord, use me today, however you choose, you begin to live in the flow of His purpose. You start to see your work, your waiting, your relationships, said, and even your challenges as part of something eternal. Because at the end of it all, God's plan is not about how much you've earned. It's about how much you've poured out for His glory. God's plan is about purpose, not paychecks, he said. Many people mistake faith for waiting passively, sitting still, doing nothing, and hoping God will somehow drop a miracle into their lap, said. But true faith is not passive, it's active. Faith doesn't sit still in fear or frustration. Faith moves, faith acts, faith prepares, he said. While worry keeps your hands frozen, faith keeps them working. Waiting on God does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can while trusting Him to do what you can't. Sometimes we pray, Lord, said, open the right door for me, but we never get up to knock. We expect divine opportunities while we stay stuck in discouragement. Yet throughout Scripture, said, God moves in the lives of those who move in faith. When Noah built the ark, there was no rain in sight, but he built anyway. When Abraham left his homeland, said, he didn't have a map, but he walked anyway. When Peter stepped out of the boat, the waves were raging, but he stepped anyway. You see, said, faith is not waiting for everything to look right before you move. It's moving because you trust that God will make it right as you go. Said, you might be in a season right now where nothing seems certain. The job market looks unstable. The future feels unclear, he said. And you're wondering what step to take next. But instead of letting anxiety control your days, let action guided by faith shape your path. Prepare your heart, he said. Sharpen your skills, volunteer, serve, and sow into others while you wait for your own breakthrough. When you keep moving forward, even in small ways, said, God begins to meet you in motion. It's much easier for Him to steer a moving ship than one that's anchored in fear. The truth is, said, fear disguises itself as wisdom. It whispers, be careful, don't take a risk. Wait until everything is certain. But nothing in life is ever completely certain. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll never move, said. Faith is trusting that even if you can't see the full picture, the one who does will guide your steps, said. You don't need to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. When you take that step, heaven responds. Doors that were shut begin to open, he said. Opportunities you never noticed before begin to appear, and peace begins to replace anxiety, he said. I remember a time when I faced a situation that looked completely impossible. Everything in me wanted to stay still and hope that God would fix it on His own. But deep inside, I heard Him whisper, move. So I did, not knowing what would happen next, not having all the answers, he said, but trusting that if I moved in faith, He would meet me there. And He did. The miracle didn't happen before I moved. It happened because I moved, said. That's how faith works. Some of you are waiting for God to bring change, but God is waiting for you to take the first step. He's already given you the wisdom, the gift, the idea, the vision. Now He's waiting for you to activate it. You might feel unqualified, unequipped, or uncertain, he said. But that's where grace steps in. God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. And when you act in faith, you invite His power into your situation, said. Faith doesn't eliminate waiting, but it transforms it. Instead of waiting with fear, you wait with expectation. Instead of saying, said, what if it doesn't work? You start declaring, what if it does? Instead of sitting in anxiety, you move in obedience, said. That's what faith looks like in action, not desperation, but preparation. So while you wait for God's next instruction, said, keep your heart open and your hands busy. Keep growing, serving, praying, and believing, because when God sees movement, He releases momentum, he said. When He sees your faith in action, He begins to align everything in your favor. Faith requires action, not anxiety, said. There comes a moment in every believer's life when you have done all you can. You've prayed, planned, prepared, and pushed. And still, he said, nothing seems to move. That's the moment when God gently says, now let go and let me step in. You see, as long as you keep trying to control everything, he said, you leave no space for God to perform the miraculous. When your hands are clenched tightly around your plans, His hands cannot fill them with His promises, said. Surrender is not giving up, it's giving over. Handing control back to the one who knows how to bring beauty from what looks broken, said. We often hold on because we're afraid. Afraid of losing security, afraid of missing out, afraid that if we stop striving, everything will fall apart, said. But the truth is, things fall into place the moment you stop trying to hold them together on your own, said. The greatest breakthroughs in life come not through our effort, but through our surrender. When you release your plans, your timing, and your idea of success, said, God begins to move in ways you could never orchestrate yourself. Many times we pray for God's will, but secretly hope He agrees with ours, said. We ask Him to open doors, but only the ones we've chosen. We say, Lord, take control, but still grip the steering wheel tightly, he said. That's why surrender feels so hard. It requires trust. But the moment you let go, you discover that His plan was always better. His path was always safer, said. And His blessings were always greater than what you were chasing, he said. I remember a time in my life when I was so focused on achieving something that I could barely rest. I prayed for it every day, strategized, and worked tirelessly. Yet everything seemed to slip further from reach. I began to question myself and even question God. One night, in prayer, I heard the Lord whisper, He said, "You're trying to make happen what only I can make happen." That night, I surrendered, truly surrendered. I stopped striving, stopped worrying, and said, "God, if this is your will, it will come in your way and in your time." A few weeks later, said, what I had been chasing suddenly came effortlessly and better than I ever imagined. That's what happens when you let go, said. Surrender doesn't mean you stop caring or stop working. It means you stop worrying. It means you release the need to control the outcome, he said. You do your part in obedience, and then you rest knowing that God will do His part in perfection. The peace that comes from surrender is unlike anything else, said. It's not the peace of having everything figured out. It's the peace of knowing you don't have to. Sometimes, he said, God will wait until you reach the end of yourself so that you can finally see Him begin. He allows certain doors to close, certain plans to fail, not to harm you, said, but to bring you to a place of trust. Because it's only when you have nothing left to hold on to that you realize He was the one holding you all along, said. Maybe right now, you're standing in that place. The place between effort and exhaustion, between faith and frustration. You've tried everything, said, and nothing has worked. Friend, this is not the end. This is the invitation to surrender, to open your hands and say, Lord, said, I'm done fighting for control. I trust you. And when you do, you'll feel the weight lift. The fear will fade. The peace of God will flood your heart, he said, because when you let go, God steps in. And when He steps in, everything changes.